This is Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Welcome to the show. I'm David Pakman. Thrilled to have you with us today. Huge show, Lewis. Literally a huge show. We've got a Springfield police officer, Mike Carney, here in studio with us shortly. Congressman Richard Neal, U.S. Congressman from Massachusetts, as well as an exclusive sit-down interview with Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick. We've got a lot of campaign 2010 stuff going on, and I'll tell you, rightly so, because the campaign is really getting going. That's later. Let me get to this week's news. John Paul Stevens, not Led Zeppelin bassist John Paul Jones, but John Paul Stevens, Supreme Court Justice, is retiring, and we're going to have plenty of time to cover this in the future. And Lewis, just turn up the record volume on the second input there a tiny bit on the laptop. The interesting thing with this is that he is, yes, yet another Supreme Court justice that Barack Obama will get to replace, but he's a liberal one. So it's not necessarily going to shift the court too much. We're going to have plenty of time once we actually get a nomination from Barack Obama. Conservatives already worked up into a frenzy. Much of it is really that mainstream media outlets are just asking questions to anybody who comes on their shows, no matter what the topic is, about who will replace John Paul Stevens and how would they react. Well, there hasn't even been a nomination. How could they possibly react? And what they're doing really, and when I say they, I say a lot of the mainstream media outlets are baiting for we will filibuster nominees if A, B, or C, if they don't meet certain litmus tests. There hasn't even been a nomination, so we won't say much else about it. Over the summer, Lewis, I know we'll be covering this extensively. Now, Stevens has been on the high court since 1975, right? He's turning 90 this month within a few days. Funny thing, Sarah Palin now, she's going nuts about media bias, saying, wait a second, I announce my resignation and the media calls me a quitter. Now John Paul Stevens announces he's quitting and nobody complains. So Sarah Palin clearly fundamental misunderstanding about what's going on. And, I have to say, Lewis, John Paul Stevens is almost 90 years old. He's certainly not a quitter. So Sarah Palin should understand the difference, should she not?
Right. And it's not like, there's this huge void when he leaves. I mean, it will be filled. It's not like he's in the middle of a term.
Hey, I don't know that Sarah Palin left that big of a void, but
everything's relative, I guess.
Everything is relative. The Tea Party and the Republican National Committee, there's a lot of hijinks going on there. Remember a couple weeks ago we covered that the RNC was spending about $2,000 at a lesbian bondage strip club in California? Well, the RNC has done it again, and this is really funny. The RNC, I guess inadvertently, I would like to believe inadvertently, sent a fundraising mail piece with a return number that leads to a phone sex line. So you call up the number on the piece of mail from the Republican National Committee, you get a phone sex line. You can get connected quickly, right away, Lewis, with hot, horny girls, students, housewives, and working girls from all over the country. And by the way, they love nasty talk as much as you do. So the RNC, I guess yet another mistake, but you have to admit it's funny. 1 week they're spending $2,000 at a lesbian strip club. Next, they're sending you a mail piece that wants your money and also directs you to call a phone sex line. It's all going wrong for the RNC, is it not?
It's all hilarious, is what it is.
The mix-up happened because I guess they put in 800 as the area code instead of 202, which is 202. I think is Washington D.C. It's a laugh a minute. The funny thing is, I wonder how many RNC donors called the 800 number sex line and just stayed on, thinking it was the right number, and actually paid whatever it is a minute to stay on the line. Michael Steele, who has been at the center of a lot of this RNC controversy, he's now pulling the race card. And for months and months, he's insisted, and a year ago or whenever it was he took that office, he insisted that even though he is the first African-American RNC chairman, race has nothing to do with why he was picked. Well, he talked about how well he can do his job regardless of race. That's how he'll be measured, by nothing else. How does fundraising go? How does his leadership go? Until now, he is now saying that race is a factor. He is pulling the race card, and I'll play it for you here.
It just is. It's that Barack Obama has a slimmer margin. A lot of folks do. I mean, it's a different role for me to play and others to play. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, but you take that as part of the nature of it. It's not. It's more because you're not someone that they know. I'm not a Washington insider, even though I grew up here in D.C. My view on politics is much more grassroots oriented. It's not old boy network oriented. And so I tend to, come at it a little bit stronger, a little bit more streetwise, if you will. That's rubbed some feathers the wrong way. At the end of the day, I'm judged by whether I win elections and I raise the money.
So he does get back to saying that's how he's judged, winning elections and raising money. But he is playing the race card here, is he not? I mean, he's saying that he is on a shorter leash, essentially, because he is black. He can't have it both ways. When things are going well, he's saying that, or before things are even going, he's saying race is not a factor. The Republicans are not going to use race as a factor to decide, as a barometer to decide about Michael Steele as the RNC chair, and at the same time saying he's on a shorter leash and being evaluated differently because of his race. It can't possibly be both, can it?
Well, different people evaluate you because of different things, but, I guess sometimes it's whatever's convenient.
Well, it sounds like it's whatever's convenient to him at the time if he thinks he's in trouble, which he is. And by the way, Sarah Palin was asked what she thinks about Michael Steele as RNC chair. And of course, Sarah Palin, it's not clear. Is she a Tea Partier? I almost said the other thing. Is she a Republican? We don't know. Here's what she said about Michael Steele.
I support Michael Steele. I am glad that he is the leader of the party administratively. And, if those within the party are choosing to go a different direction, his term is up in, a number of months, and they can vote somebody else in. But I think he's doing a great job. Michael Steele is an outsider. The machine is tough, I think, to penetrate. I know that Michelle and I both have kind of felt that in our careers. And I think it's been...
Okay, we've heard Sarah Palin go on the I'm an outsider route before, and now she's saying the same thing about Michael Steele. If you believe Sarah Palin, the Republican Party has been taken over by outsiders. She was the vice presidential candidate in 2008. Michael Steele is running the Republican National Committee. It sounds like the party is essentially outsiders. It's not insiders. So what are all those Republicans in Washington doing? They must have lost power.
Oh, man, it's so obvious that I'm a Washington outsider and someone just not used to the way you guys operate.
Okay. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Michael Steele. Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace, and by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.